We have 11 or 12. What are we on?
12.
We're definitely on 12. I want to make sure I
Factually.
get this right.
It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Just don't
All
say
right,
the
welcome
number.
back. Welcome back to Casuals Encounters, episode 12. I'm joined by myself and Will from Casuals Corner MMA. Here we're going to run down all the latest MMA news, topics, and fight talk. Let's just jump straight into it, I think, mate. What a card that was last night. I mean, little bit of a sort of a slow burner,
Mm.
and then that main event was just that was it was a necessary sort of boost that gave me that at 7 a.m. because I'm an hour ahead because I'm away
Oh, yeah, of course you are,
in
yeah.
France. So
Didn't even think
I
about
was
that.
in the mate. I was in the trenches
I
at
didn't even
like
think
7
about that
a.m.
at all. I didn't even
Yeah, I
think about the
know.
time zones once.
I was in the trenches at 7 a.m. and that was the needed boost because I was on my last legs. What a performance that was from Sean O'Malley, which I'm sure we'll jump into. But what was your overall thoughts? Hit me with it.
Yeah, I was the same. I was in the trenches because I got up early doors. And the weird thing about a Saturday, I'm sure you'll have this as well. Sometimes I wake up early and I'll think, this is not good. Because I know in my head I've got
Yeah.
a late night ahead.
You
And
got
I
a plan
woke
for
up
it.
early doors about 6 o'clock. And I didn't feel great. And I thought, right, I'll just get stuck into work. So I started getting stuck into work at 6. Next thing I know, I've made a few meals. I did a little bit of painting, of all things.
Yeah, I saw that.
Next thing I know, it's 11 o'clock. The fights have started. My eyes are shutting, closed. I said I was going to do a live stream. And then I put a live stream on for 30 seconds. I looked at the screen. I looked disgusting. I just didn't even want to speak to anyone. And obviously I was working at the same time and I thought, you know what? I'm not doing this today. I just turned it off and I just watched the fights. And let's
Yeah.
get stuck into the
Sometimes you
meat
need
and
that.
potatoes. Let's not even mess about. Get straight into the big one. Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling. Take me through your
But I
series of
gave you I
conscious
gave you your
thoughts.
credits. I
How
gave you
many
your
times have
credits
you had to
last
say this,
night.
by the way?
I
How
know,
many
I know, I
bouquets
know.
of flowers have I received on this podcast in 12
I wish I
episodes?
remembered what rounds you predicted. We're gonna have to go back and have a look at that because you predicted it pretty much bang on. You were saying how it's his moment, and the moment, the sort of leading up to the fight, every time I was envisioning the fight, all I could see was Sean O'Malley knocking him out. Even
Mm.
though I predicted Sterling, and I was like firm on that prediction, because I was like, that is the sensible prediction to go with. It's what my initial thoughts were. But the more I thought about it, I was like, he can really catch him because that reach and that length is so difficult to deal with. You know, there's no one like him with that frame in the bantamweight
No,
division,
no one.
and that I just that stylistically is such it's not something you can really prepare for. And I know Sterling after the fight talked about how he tried to get in sparring partners to emulate it, but it clearly wasn't enough. And I think that's a really big point because O'Malley he looked brilliant that night. That night he nullified the takedowns late in the first round. He did well, and even early in the second too. And I mean that right hand was just money.
Glazer.
Perfect distance control. Just Sterling overextended, and that was it really. I wanted to just quickly before I'll let you have a go. The stoppage I wanted to talk about because there was a lot of discourse about it, and I don't really. I'm wondering if you agree here. I don't really see where that comes from because I thought it was a pretty valid stoppage. I think Mark Goddard did a good job. I think the natural instinct, if you're still in that fight, especially for a wrestler like Sterling, is to shoot. It's not to shoot, but to grab hold of a leg, get up and grab, and just
He
hold to
always
that leg for dear
looks.
life.
He always looks hurt anyway. The way that he moves and the ways
Yeah,
that he sort of dips off to angles and single legs, and he was hurt. But the way that he sort of moves his body anyway just didn't do him any favors because I did watch it
yeah,
back, and you could see his eyes roll back 3 or 4 times. And there's nothing wrong with the stoppage whatsoever. If you're asking the question, could he fight on? The question is yes. I know that. There's a million fights in the UFC where fighters can fight on. That's not the question of should it have been a stoppage or not. I think sometimes people get the lines a bit blurred. And someone messaged me and they said, did you think it was an early stoppage? I said, the easiest way to tell if it's an early stoppage is black and white. Do they contest it straight away? And Aljamain Sterling, he sort of
he took it well.
he went like that straight away, but he wasn't in Mark Goddard's face and screaming and kicking. He got buzzed hard 3 times.
Yeah, for
Sean
sure.
O'Malley said he saw his eyes roll back 3 times. And I'm not being funny. If you go back and watch that Thomas Almeida fight, I just wrote this comment
Oh,
before I got on this podcast. I said, I know the weight classes are very different, but the Sean O'Malley ground and pound against Thomas Almeida is
That is
very,
horrendous.
very similar to Dan Henderson's H-bomb. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not. You're not at all.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Every time I watch that knockout, it makes me cringe a little bit. It's one of the few times when I watch this sport, you sort of get
Yeah,
desensitized, don't
not
you? But
often does it
that's
happen.
always that's one of the few ones where it's just that massive right hand. I can't. I hate it. It's the sound as well. It's like he buries him through the canvas. Yeah,
I'll
I
be
completely
honest
agree.
as well. When obviously I anticipated this fight, I said to you many times, I've followed his journey. There's some fighters where I feel as if I have a much bigger advantage of not getting a prediction correct per se, but having
No,
a
I know what you mean.
fairly accurate prediction just because I watch and listen a lot of their journey, a lot of their mindset. So I knew coming into this fight that Sean O'Malley is not a stoner. He doesn't really drink. He doesn't party. He's not what 99% of the fan base actually think he does. He's very disciplined, ridiculously disciplined. His sleep is imperative. His strength and nutrition is ridiculous. Dan Garner, his strength and nutrition coach. And then even people in his team, there's someone called Brandon Harris. He does all his brain health checks and documents, and he's leading the research in the field in regards to brain health and brain protocol. So you've got this superstar team when you have a look at Tim Welch as well. And then you even have a look at business partners that he has, such as Imran. And Sean O'Malley has this little bubble around him of about 6 people. And individually, they are all, pound for pound, some of the best in their respective fields at what they do. And they may not have been doing it for the longest period of time, or maybe don't have the notoriety of other people in that field. But the likes of Tim Welch now, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I'm not even joking
Oh, I
because
tell you what, that when they hugged afterwards, like in that got me a little bit because I have to say, I was never really like on the Sean O'Malley train. I never disliked him, but I was never sort of like I needed to be impressed, and it was the Yarn fight which really made me like stand up and go, okay, he deserves to
mm,
be here, and I think that was the same for a lot of people, and that was the turning point. I started to look into him a little bit more in terms of the preparation side, as you were talking about, and everything in between those 25 or 15 minutes inside
true.
of the cage.
What did
And
you
I got a
find?
new appreciation for him. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just, as you said, it's the discipline, it's
yeah, it's
everything
crazy.
put together, and he has the ethic to go far, and he has gone far, and he's now the champion of the world. And I don't think it's you could talk about his run, the opponents he's faced. I don't think anyone's
Irrelevant.
going to be talking about that now. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Yeah.
they're not. This is the thing. It's funny you say that. It's funny you brought that up because I was sitting there this morning and I'm seeing the UFC have released the full fight knockout straight away. They've never
Yes, that's
done
a
that
good
in the
point. Never.
history, right? So they're just strapping a rocket ship to Sean O'Malley. They did before this fight had even happened. They turned it around quick. They gave it in Boston. They made all the promotion was in regards to him. He has his name on the canvas. Everything was set up for Sean O'Malley to go and shock the world and stop Aljamain Sterling. And the thing is with Sean O'Malley is you said you weren't on his train. There's sometimes with athletes when I listen to their podcast or longer form medium and I just see their mindset and hear them speak and whatnot. There's some people that I have really strong belief in. And I just always with Sean O'Malley, I've always believed that he could do what he set out. No, I didn't think it's always gonna be easy and play out as easy as it did. But there's just something about him and how he manifests these things. And as you said, when you done research about him, people are going to watch clips this weekend, right? They're going to watch clips of Sean O'Malley and he's young and skinny and he's smoking and he's saying, I'm going to become UFC champion. And they just think this is some random kid with a wish and whatnot. And then, oh, look, he's gone and knocked out one of the pound for pound best bantamweights ever. The
Wild.
truth of Sean O'Malley, as you know, and as anyone knows that looks at his life, is every single step and every single decision in every minute of his day was geared towards that moment for the best part of 2 decades, which is sort of insane. And I said before about, I think it's going to be his moment and I think this is going to be his crowning moment and it's going to be, I posted it on my Instagram.
You're so proud of it, aren't you?
No, I posted it on my Instagram
no,
because
you deserve it though. You're right.
it wasn't the prediction that I was right about that I was particularly shocked. I did think he could do that. I didn't think it was always
had the chance.
Yeah, I didn't think it was 10 times out of 10 that happened. I don't. But I just always believed he's a performer. You know, and there's some people that like I said, can just perform under the lights. It wasn't that, but it was the fact that all week I just kept getting this feeling, and I kept saying to people, "This is going to be McGregor Aldo. This is going to be McGregor Aldo. This is McGregor Aldo." People kept saying to me, "How do you think this is going to go? Is Aldo just going to backpack him?" I was like, "Good chance, very good chance. I think this is going to be McGregor Aldo." And then the step back, fade away, cross.
It's beautiful.
That's one of the most picture-perfect punches you're ever going to see, genuinely.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
What did you think about the actual sequence in terms of the finish?
I mean, it was everything I think we expected Sean could bring to the table. We know how good he is in that realm. There's no secret. He had the advantage on the feet, and he capitalised. I don't think there's much to it. I think Sterling probably, I wouldn't say disrespected or had little respect for Sean's ability.
Confident, but I think is
fair. I think he was confident. I think it's just
rightly so.
It's the fight game, isn't it? It's one of those. I feel like you could play that fight again, and it probably wouldn't go as I think Sean could definitely win, but it probably wouldn't go as that well again. You know, I think it's a coin toss of a fight when you look at it. But I think, you know, I that fight again it's a close fight if you do the rematch. Whether I'd like to see that or not, I'm not sure.
He deserves it. I don't think
he does deserve it. I don't think he'll get it, and I actually, this is my point I wanted to make, because you talked about how everything was geared up for Sean, you know, in fight week, and built up for him, you know, is the next big thing. And on the other side of the coin, exactly, you have Aljamain Sterling, who I'm sure you completely agree has just been a bit of just completely swept under the rug for the best part of the last couple of years, despite being one of the best fighters on the planet. And I think if you are the champion of the division, deservedly so as he is, regardless of how we got the belt, he's more than proved that, you know, he's good enough to hold that title. And I will never really understand the disrespect that he's gotten. And it was quite sad seeing, I don't know if you heard on the broadcast, the first thing, as soon as he walked out. No. I'll get onto that. But as soon as he walked out, the first thing you could hear was someone in the crowd, and it got picked up on the mic, and he just screams, "Fuck you, Aljo." And it picks up on the mic, and it's the first thing you hear. And that kind of, it's funny, but it resonates a little bit, because that's why I did my video on it.
Is it funny though?
Yeah, no, it's
like, why are you being that guy?
In the Twitter sphere. No, I don't agree with it personally, because I always think...
No, I know, but I just mean, why... when you go to shows, it's different. It's just different. It's weird. I
would never do that in person either.
No,
like, let alone online. Like, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
It shows you, though, that there's a lot of people that watch this sport. And this is fine as well, by the way. This is not even anything wrong with this. But there's a lot of people that watch this sport, and they watch it as that. A sport. But it's very different. It's weird MMA because of, obviously, the consequences and because of its rawness. There's a lot more emotion involved, so it almost feels a lot different for a lot of spectators, because it's not sport, because their family does it, their friends do it, they're watching people compete and whatnot. So there's a very different feel, I find, at things. Often, if the other person's win, like, you often clap them out and stuff like that. You wouldn't do that if it was Man City, Man United, and the other team. You wouldn't clap the other team up, you know? It's just a different sport. So that always confuses me, but sorry, you were saying, it winds me up, because I think Aljo's all class. In that post-fight interview, even what he said about Volkanovski. Yeah,
he handled it perfectly. That's such a humble thing to do, exactly, when you're at the top of your game and you are so that good, and to be humbled like that in front of everyone who 99% of them want to see you lose.
It's crazy.
And to be that humble and, you know, acknowledge your flaws and where you need to improve, you know, in front of thousands. I think that is a testament to how, you know, in tune he is with his emotions and ego, I think, which a lot of people don't acknowledge, because he really is one of the most respectful guys in the sport, because there's a lot of guys who will play that trash talking game. They'll play the media game. Sterling's never really been one of those guys. He's just been supremely confident in what he can do. And I think that's what's got him so far. And I hope now, in a way, the loss might be a bit of a silver lining for him, that people garner a bit more of sympathy for him in that regard.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
It's a small silver lining, but I'd hope that would be the case. Because... yeah, he always deserved to be here, and I will never say otherwise.
For sure. It's a good point you brought up as well, because when you talk about humility, people that react with emotion, people that, as I said, just get caught up on Twitter and they want to just trash talk and project their own lives onto someone else. Of course, they're going to troll, and I don't. That's why he's well over that, because he understands that world now. But when you actually take emotion out of it and you have a look at what Aljamain Sterling's done objectively as a champion, 9-fight win streak, the people he's beaten, the way that he made the division level up in regards to its grappling, we're looking at the 135-pound division as likely the best division in
It
combat
has been
sports.
for a while.
And
It
he's
really
the
has,
man at the
yeah.
top of that, making everyone else, including Sean O'Malley, level their game up exponentially to beat him. So we have to put props there. But secondly to that as well, is like when you look beyond that emotion of what Aljamain Sterling is, he genuinely is one of the most value-providing fighters on the roster when it comes to what he does for his fans, how he shares with his community, his interactions with his community. If you look at people as champions, they are not as tapped into their community personally, and they don't give you, in regards to content, what he gives you. You have a look at his fight vlogs.
I actually wanted to pick up on that. Have you seen his new video? He just about an hour ago. I don't know if you just watched it. He posted it just right after. It was a footage of him right after the loss. I think you should.
I saw
don't know
the
if you'd seen it.
thumbnail.
Yeah, it's really like
Did
an
you watch
intimate
it?
look in that. Yeah. It's only like 4 or 5 minutes long.
What did you think?
And it's just, I mean, it's everything I expected from him. And he's humble. Even obviously there is a camera there, but that is him exactly. And
there's not a camera there though,
you're
is
right
there?
about him
Essentially,
being, exactly. I'm quoting there. He's being himself there, and I think that shows you, as you said, how tapped in he is to the modern side of the game, which a lot of fighters aren't doing. Henry Cejudo is another one; he does it very well. Mighty Mouse, there's so many of them, but he's doing the right things, and I hope that he can really learn from that loss. I'm interested to see where he goes now, because he did have second thoughts about moving up to featherweight.
That's
with Marab in mind as well. With Marab in mind, it's all going to be a bit weird. We're going to have to see how this plays out, I think.
That's the last thing I'll sort of say on that is he's so transparent. That's what I was saying about the training vlogs, is he'll be in a bandage and say, yeah, can't train for a couple of weeks because I've hurt my arm, and yeah, you know what, weren't feeling great today, so I've gone to McDonald's. And obviously those things don't happen all the time, but he puts those things in. And as someone that edits fighters' footage, I know people, and rightly so, that are very, very particular what goes out, even down to the smallest detail in a run-up to fights that are not at UFC championship level. They are not at championship level. So to see him just be so candid and to be so, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it, and try and beat me, not many people can. Honestly, it's really, really incredible journey. And I think you're right, actually. I think this loss is actually going to give him a strong fan base. I really do think that. It happens in MMA all the time.
It's a shame he hasn't already got one. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
He deserves one. I'm one of them.
100%.
You're one of them as well.
I think the truth of it is nowadays, though, he knows that people who actually watch or understand the sport or even watch his journey are massively for Aljamain Sterling.
He
knows that he's actually got a good support system. It may not be as broad as someone like Sean O'Malley, but the truth it is, as much as I like Sean O'Malley, 98% of his fans don't know who he is. They don't.
Yeah. They like him because he's eccentric, he's different,
but
and he taps into the sort of outer sphere of MMA social media where the people who don't really watch, as you said, are sort of involved, and they'll see a guy with a crazy afro doing a crazy knockout, and they'll be invested. That's all they need. I agree.
And that's all the UFC need. And the last thing I'll say on that is the one thing I want to top that off is just by saying, as I was saying earlier, I was getting goosebumps when I was watching it. Not necessarily just for Sean O'Malley, a little bit more so for even Tim Welch, to be perfectly honest. I know that sounds strange, but I watch so much of his content in regards to his podcast. I listen to a lot of what goes on in his life and how he navigates his career and coaching and businesses and how he tries to level up just as a person and books he listens to and different things like that. I'm always trying to learn from him in different ways. And we have to remember, he's in his 30s. He's in his 30s. He becomes the youngest championship winning coach of all time in the UFC.
Wild.
And Tim Welch now goes down factually as one of the best coaches of all time. Think about it. If you have a championship fighter from day one to a championship UFC belt, in my opinion, you're one of the greatest coaches in MMA of all time. I just see it like that. I just think that's
Yeah,
such a
of course.
special journey. And when you have a look at the journey of Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch, it's such a rare and unique one. Because Tim Welch is in Phoenix, Arizona, or where Sean O'Malley lived at the time, sorry. And he sees him in his first ever, I think, amateur MMA fight against a grappler, funnily enough. He takes him down and armbars him. And he says, "Oh, come out to Phoenix and train." And he just does it. He does it. He lives on his couch. They have no money. They're going to restaurants to steal tissue roll because they can't afford any.
Yeah.
They're fighting 3 times a week. He's rubbish because he can't grapple in training sense. In the fights he's performing, and he's obviously taken his athleticism into his things. And they've taken that to a UFC championship belt, the 0.001% of fighters of all time. Not only Sean O'Malley, but Tim Welch, who started off as a fighter, transitioned into coaching, which was always his calling, always his strong suit, has such a good mind for the sport. And now not just Sean, but Tim have both gone from zero to the very pinnacle on the sport, on the exact same journey, every step of the way, living in the same house, sharing the same experiences, going through the same camps, all the weight cuts, all the training, all the pad sessions, every single repetition. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a great story, isn't it?
It's
I love it.
beautiful. That's why I said it.
And
It
there's
was
so
meant
much
to
time
be.
left.
Yeah,
there's
that's
so
so
much
true.
time left, isn't
So
there?
true.
As well, they've got. Because as I said earlier about his style being so difficult to deal with, I actually really feel he could last a while as champ, and I'd be happy to be
Cheeto
proven wrong
Vera
because
has
I
beaten
love
him
it.
in a rematch? Don't think so.
Absolutely not. No, I mean Merab
Don't
is
think
probably the
so.
only one that immediately comes to mind. Maybe Umar down the line, but we'll see. That's a conversation for another day. I think we should jump
Yeah,
into
let's
the
do it.
co-main event
Let's do it.
because I think we both got that bang on the money in terms of not that was a
Yeah.
particularly hard fight to predict, but Zhang Weili looked dominant, and we said last week about her improvements to her grappling game against Carla Esparza, and we wanted to see more of that, and we absolutely did. I think it was a brilliant performance. The takedowns, the body locks, beautiful stuff. Amanda did really well to defend in a lot of those positions, locking up a couple of chokes, threatening. But Zhang Weili just looked level above the whole time. I'm sure you saw this stat, but it was the largest strike differential in women's history, that fight, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, that just shows you the level of dominance it was. Yeah, I honestly I don't have much to say on it because it went exactly how I think we thought it was going to go. I would have liked to see a finish, perhaps a little bit. I don't actually no. I'll take that back. I don't want to see more urgency because I think she was very urgent. Some of that ground and pound was absolutely brutal, but yeah, it was another stellar performance, and I think she is going from strength to strength. And if Rose Namajunas was ever to come back, I think she beats her. I think she beats Rose in that trilogy fight, even though she's 2 down. I think she's leveled up her game across all aspects enough.
Rose
and I
has
think,
moved weight class.
Yeah, I did. She hasn't. Yeah, I have heard about that. So we'll have to wait and see if that.
Manon Fiorot in Paris.
Oh yeah, of course. That's scheduled, isn't it?
That's a
Honestly,
banger.
that's a pull from me. Yeah, that's a great fight. Well, that's a hypothetical though in terms of the Zhang Weili fight. I think she's going to go from strength to strength as she is already doing. I don't see anyone that's beating her really anytime soon. I mean, unless you've got any suggestions. What are your thoughts on it?
I think Tatiana Suarez is pretty exciting.
Oh, of course. I forgot about her. Gosh. Yeah, that's the shout. On the feet, maybe that's an interesting prospect, but
she's just going to go southpaw.
Yeah, she's got a chance there.
Tatiana Suarez, in my opinion, easier said than done, but is going to just look to go in that southpaw position, blast body kicks and high kicks, damage the hands, slow her down a little bit, close the distance, and I think she'll probably be able to out horsepower her a little bit. Obviously,
Wow,
Zhang was just super impressive. She's such a student of the game. And every time you watch her fight, I don't think there's a fighter I can think of personally at the top elite echelon of the divisions in the UFC that we expect such vast adjustments and changes to their game in a positive way, as we do Zhang Weili, potentially Alex Volkanovski. But there's not a lot of people when you just expect such dramatic changes, and that's so impressive to do when you're at that level, because it's hard to make such groundbreaking changes. But she always seems to do it. And she always just levels up. And now she's just got this conditioning where, she, like you said, she's just so ferocious, which is impressive to do that pace for 5 rounds.
Not a lot of women in that division really have that venom
People,
and
like,
that drive.
athletes.
Yeah, athlete. Yeah, to be honest,
There's
yeah,
not a lot of fighters.
any of them.
It's men's division, women's division that
People
come
are
out
content to
and they
sit
just
there,
get you
aren't they?
down and just try and get you by the collar and just punch you in the face like they're at a bar
She
fight.
threw. She was
Fight.
throwing everything
Yeah.
into those sort of hammer fists and those elbows. I particularly actually, I really love those elbows, sort of in those clinch positions.
Yeah,
They
they
really
were
nice.
sweet.
I will
Yeah, they
forever
were
be
heavy.
a huge fan of elbows, especially out of the clinch. That's some of my
Underutilized.
favorite strikes. Yeah, I completely agree. Not enough people using elbows. But yeah,
I think
that is another
I
conversation.
actually think that is. I always tweet this, and I always think it's going to be the case. I feel as if that 50-50 position and mastering elbows against the cage is just going to be the next trend of MMA. The same way we've got low kicks at the moment. That's just sort of the trend.
Joe Rogan's spouting on about it.
I feel as if those elbows, and every time I think it, and then every time Paul Felder's in the booth, of course he mentions it, and then it reconfirms it to me. But I just think it's a position that we don't see, and maybe that's because I don't know what the reason is for that. But anyway, that's a conversation for a different time. There's many answers for that, but that's a conversation for a different time.
Yeah.
It's not interesting enough to even possibly get into enough. But yeah, with Zhang Weili, all I was going to say is, yeah, there's not much to say about the fight because she is so impressive and she keeps making those jumps in her game. And she's such a freak athlete. She just hits so hard. She's so relentless.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, got to do this for 25 minutes. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. And as she said, and as she rightly put, Amanda Lemos could throw anything, but she was going to be like water, and she very much was, because any position that Amanda Lemos went, she just outsmarted her and outdominated everyone. All I was going to say, though, the reason I laughed when he said about the differential is because I was thinking in my head, I feel that fight was actually a lot closer than people are going to remember it as. I feel as if people are going to remember that fight and think that was a complete domination and a whitewash. And I guess when you look at the scorecards and you look at the strikes, that is what it tells you. But when you watch it as an eye test fight, there were some moments that Amanda Lemos landed big shots. She stung her a couple of times. She had that DAS where I know she didn't have a ton of leverage, but that looked close at one point.
Yeah.
I think she was threatening. I don't think it was a fight where the women in the division would have been watching and thinking, oh my good. I don't think it's a fight the same as when the featherweights watch Volk fight. I don't think it was that.
Mm.
That's all I'm trying to say. I don't think the rest of the division were there just...
Yeah.
I don't know.
The only criticism I could give was,
impressive, though, wasn't it?
Perhaps leaving her head on the centre line just a little bit too much. That was where she was getting caught. I think she was throwing those 1-2s and throwing the kicks in there, but she was just keeping her head there, not moving enough. And Lemos caught her quite a few times with that right hand. She was loading up there.
Boom.
And even though it was quite telegraphed, she was getting caught. And I think that's something she could probably improve on. And to be honest, knowing how good she is, and you know, she is a champ for a reason, she will patch up those holes. So it's exciting to see where she goes. She did.
She made that fight, and let's be real. We've seen some fights in those divisions before where the champion's dominating and they land a good couple of shots and the other person sort of wants a way out a little bit, potentially. Amanda Lemos did not want a way out. She fought to every position, and I have to mention that because it was seriously impressive. She was giving up her back, belly down, and then she was giving up full mount, and she was just continuing to transition between these bad positions so that she could find an opportunity and then an escape or a sweep, or at least get the feet to the hips. And I thought that was super impressive because the pace of the fight was ridiculous. So her conditioning coming into that fight must have been so impressive. And I know that obviously the scorecards didn't go in her favour, but I was actually pretty impressed by Amanda Lemos, to be honest, because I know she's skillful with heavy hands and submissions, but just the tenacity and the conditioning of that fight.
Yeah, not a lot of people are willing to go that far
No,
for 25.
down to the 5th minute,
Yeah.
knowing she's down a lot of rounds on the scorecard, it's very easy to start feeling, okay, maybe I'll take an extra couple of breaths in this headlock position, you know? Maybe in this turtle, maybe I'll just take a couple of more seconds to get to my feet. She fought every position, so... Anyway, what's some other fights that jumped off the page at you without... Because
I mean, there's one we have
loads
to.
of
Yeah, I
were
actually have
there?
to take
It
that
weren't
back. I did
amazing.
stumble over my words when I said it was
Yeah,
a
I think you got a
incredible
bit ahead of
card.
yourself on that.
Yeah.
It was the main event talking. It's fair.
The main event was I was riding the high from that. There's
That's
a lot
fair.
of decisions. That was but I will say, Ian Gary really he is the
Flipping heck.
future. If we have to use a bit of a if we have
He's
to go there, he
good.
really is the future. He's very good, isn't he? Those leg kicks are unbelievable. And people talk about the win against Neil Magny maybe not being incredible
Most
for your
wins
stop,
ever.
but yeah, exactly.
In the welterweight
Most
division.
wins ever in the welterweight division. And I think
21
to dominate him like
wins.
that. To dominate him like that,
That's
right?
insane.
It's not a lot of people are going to do it that easy. Those leg kicks were, I talked earlier about cringing a little bit at stuff. Leg kicks like that. Oh, I just put myself in Magny's shoes, and I really, really just want to jump out of the octagon and leave because it was a great performance.
You ain't jumping
and
anywhere
I don't think, yeah, you ain't moving.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
You have to butt scoop. You got a butt scoop now.
Yeah, butt scoop out of the cage.
Neil Magny style. He had to do that a few times yesterday.
I did actually want to say I wasn't sure if this was real or not, but I could have swore I saw a picture of him cornering somebody before his fight.
He did.
Was that true?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a good idea. Personally, I'm not sure. I'm not saying that would have affected the outcome of the fight because I don't think it would have. I think
experienced he is to make that decision. Quite literally
That's
the
true.
most experienced person possible.
Yeah.
Like, statistically the most credentialed man in the welterweight history to make that decision, to be fair. So
yeah, I mean it was
I get you.
Ian is really leveling up. I think if you look at the holes he had in his other performances against help me out here. Who was it? He beat in his last fight. No, not Rodriguez.
Last week. It was the Chinese fighter.
Yeah, because he got caught there, as we said, and he looked good against D-Rod, but that fight didn't last too long. This was good. It was good here against Magny, 15 minutes in the bank to really just show what he's about. He had the same against Gabe Green, really like good minutes in the bank. Yeah, and it was just he's leveling up and he's still so young. And I said it's just he really is going far, but I can't see him not going far as well.
He's 25.
Is what I mean, but he's 25 exactly. It's just there's still
25.
questions that need to be answered. I think that's the thing with Gary is there's questions that need to be answered, and it's the classic thing of how will he do against the out and out grappler. I think it's always the question that so many guys who are such good strikers like him.
I'm not saying that we can imagine he's the best in the world because we're just imagining he's the best grappler. I'm not saying that, but takedown defense and his guard, and then his work with Charles Oliveira.
I think,
and then his gym, Sanford MMA, best welterweights in the world, best welterweights in the world.
Gilbert,
Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, it's almost tricky because how do they not end up fighting each other? There's so many of them.
You can't.
Yeah. I think.
I think he knocks out Shavkat.
Wow, you just threw that in there. You really just dropped that as if it was nothing.
I don't know if that's a hard prediction, to be honest.
You know, I'm sort of on your side.
I just want someone to tell me why that's a wild statement. Because I don't know why.
We've said before so much about Shavkat's head movement being a massive problem.
And the biggest trait of Ian Gary's
if anyone's going to capitalize on him is Ian Gary, of course. I can see it. I think the thing is Shavkat's just so big.
So is Ian Gary. He's 6'3".
Ian Gary's big too, but
he's 6'3".
Oh my good god! Yeah, he is a problem, isn't he? I think what
you're starting to actually add these things together, and you're thinking, you know what? He actually might be able to grapple. Oh, he actually is quite tall. Yeah, he's actually going to range.
I think what's going to happen is Dana will give him the favourable options, and do you think so? I think stylistically they'll give him the favourable matchups because business perspective, it's the smart thing to do. They want to keep that stock high. They wanted to ride their train. They did the same thing for Sean, and we said there's no shame in that now. And
No,
yeah,
that's how
I
you
think that's
make
the
your
path that it's
star.
gonna go.
Sean O'Malley wouldn't
Exactly.
be selling X amount of pay-per-views, their biggest bantamweight fight ever, if they hadn't have done that. They're a business. They know how to leverage products
Yeah.
and they know how to market products, and they do a great job of that.
So are you saying you'd want to see him fight Shafkat next? Because I think he
No,
deserves it. No,
no.
I mean, I wouldn't even be mad about it.
It's
You know,
only one fight to make. It literally is only one fight to make that makes sense. I think you can do the Jeff Neal fight.
I was wondering if you were going to say Jeff Neal.
However,
So now I'm curious.
it's so obvious. There's
Is
only
it?
one fight to make.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The
Wonder
fight to
Boy.
make is Ian Gary versus Wonderboy, because when you look at Ian Gary, he
Yeah,
truly is.
he's the next generation.
He's
Isn't
the next generation
Really?
of karate, of kicker, of diverse striker. Because when you have a look at what he does so well, he has every kick in the book of both stances with no tell. So that when he puts out a lower risk, quicker, more efficient kick like a low kick, your brain is so fried from having to equate 20 other different things coming in your direction off of both stances with no fat on them that your leg's just getting chewed up now. And now you can't really walk, establish a jab. You
it?
can't really take him down anymore. And if you're trying to, he's getting good underhooks. He's got long arms and he's got very low hands. And then he's flying left kicks past your head and right kicks past your head. That snap kick is one of the quickest
Oof,
kicks in MMA
crazy.
bar none. And it goes past his head. I need to say that. It goes past his head. There was a kick that went past Neil Magny's head and went out of the octagon. It was actually ridiculous. And you have a look at his physical attributes in regards to his range. You have a look at his training partners who he's training with. You have a look at his mindset. You have a look at how he thinks about himself. People are so confused. They look at fighters and they think, I hate him. Why'd you hate him? Well, he says all this stuff. What, he's arrogant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never understood that. It's the
Well,
same
he's a
with Sterling,
fighter.
isn't it?
He's a fighter. So you want him to what? Not be arrogant about his skill set and say what? That he thinks he's going to lose these fights and get knocked? No, I want him to be ridiculous and go out and say stupid stuff. I don't care to love everything he says. I don't. I want someone to go out there and just start shouting at someone at the press conference, go to a pub and do a warm up, go and print someone's mugshot on a t-shirt, go out and 30-24 someone and stick your middle fingers up, because that's just fun to watch. And I don't even have to agree with all of it. It's just fun to watch. And this is the entertainment business. And Ian Gary understands entertainment. And there's a lot of people that are sitting there today saying he's trying to be Conor McGregor. Of course there's going to be similarities. He literally came up on the basis image of Conor McGregor. Of course there's going to be similarities. He's Irish. He's knocking people out. He's brash. He's arrogant. He is doing it in his own way. And of course he's paying homage at the same time to Conor McGregor. Don't overthink it. Just enjoy it for what it is. He's going out there and he's putting impressive performances together. You have to give him Wonderboy. I think he finishes him. And then I think it's going to be all fun
Really?
from then on in. Let's
You think he
go. I'm on
finishes
the
him?
Ian
I
Gary
don't think
track.
so.
I do.
I can't agree with you there.
Five
We
rounds.
agree most times, but I can't agree with you
Well,
there.
I'm just
on a
talking
finish.
fast, and then I just said it. I thought, well,
Yeah,
I've said it
yeah.
now. And you know what? I'm not even that I've
Fair
equated
play.
why I've said that.
You got to stick with it now, though. You got to stick with
But
it.
I'm
You
not
got to
sitting here
commit.
saying that's crazy, though.
I think it is. I don't think Wonderboy's getting finished there. No
We
way.
still have
I
to
think
remember, as the last thing I'll say, and then say however nuts I am. I love Wonderboy.
Okay.
And he looked
Who doesn't,
incredible in the fact that he just went out there and done that against Kevin Holland, and you think that the boy is 32.
Yeah. It's...
Another weight cut.
Really, though?
Another year. Not fighting skills. I'm not even talking matchups. I'm talking weight cuts. I'm talking years. I'm
age.
talking commitment. I'm
Yeah.
talking Ian Gary has spent every day of his life dreaming about fighting Wonderboy. Quite literally. And
Yeah,
Wonderboy's
okay.
42, X amount of years in a game. Going to come into it as a exemplary professional, 100%. But I'm just saying there's going to be that much more for Ian Gary. This is cranked up to 1,000 right now. Is Wonderboy fighting for a title? I think he's slowly letting those ideas fade as he starts talking about wanting to get strikers more. If he said, cool, give me XYZ, give me Colby or whatever, then we would be like, okay, maybe Wonderboy's going for the title. He's not in that mindset anymore. Ian Gary's coming here
Maybe
to
not.
take
Yeah.
over the sport. So I just think
I'll
they're
tell
on
you. I'll tell you
different
what it reminds me
paths.
of. I'll tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Adesanya versus Anderson
Anderson
Silva. I
Silva.
think that's such a perfect comparison
That
to make
is
because it really
exactly
is.
it.
Yeah,
That's
you
perfect.
know, and even then, the striking similarities they're not too far different either.
Perfect
But I
example.
mean, it's a passing of the torch moment, isn't it? Really, it's the cycle of the fight game. We've talked about that so much. Age will catch up to you, and it has done for Wonder Boy. Even though he's still hanging in there, putting in good performances, but he's not. I don't think we can sit here and say sincerely that he's at the top championship level anymore, and
He's
that's
not. Of
okay.
course he's not. Because he
Yeah,
doesn't want to fight wrestlers. As much as I love Wonder Boy, you can't come out and say, only give me strikers. Oh, I want to fight for the championship. No. If you come out and
no,
say you only want to fight for strikers, you resign yourself to big names, big opportunities, big pay-per-views. You
yeah,
don't bring yourself into conversations of titles unless there was a world when MMA world happens, when four people drop out, there's only one person to make. Ian Gary's the champion. He needs a last minute replacement. He's there, just random things like that. Unless that happens. Who else jumped off
yeah.
the page on you on the card?
I will say we have to, both of us have to give a proper apology to Cheeto Vera. I think we do because I
Do
think
we?
I think we
I
do
don't think
because
I do.
I mean I think we dismissed him
I
a
think
little bit. Both of
I
us maybe
think
a
I
little
was
bit
spot
too
on.
much.
I don't think I was wrong.
You said Pedro was going to win, did you
Yeah.
not?
And I don't
Yeah,
think he won, but I don't think that everyone was watching that fight thinking, oh, Cheeto
yeah,
won that.
okay.
I saw most scorecards going for Pedro. The commentators, which isn't, I'm not basing it off that, but my point is, and I'm not even
It's
saying
a
he
close
did, I'm
fight.
not saying he did or didn't. I'm just saying it was a super close fight. And if it went the other way, we're talking about one judge, just one round going the other way, and I'm being right, if that makes sense. So like, I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
feel, it's not, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I missed the mark on that.
Actually, yeah, no, fair enough, fair
Felt
enough.
pretty spot on, to be
I,
honest. I still felt like his
yeah,
output weren't enough.
we'll.
I still feel like he could have
It's
stepped
a
on the gas
problem, isn't
pedal
it?
more.
It's still a problem,
And I,
and you'd think with a 3 round fight he'd actually fix those problems, but no. I think I don't understand what is. I don't know
I
if you can
thought
tell
this.
me it,
What
but
is
what
it?
is it in him that's wired to start like that in every one of his fights, and it's just something
Is
he's
it
not
start like that, or is
fixing
it
or
fight
fixed.
like that?
Yeah, maybe fight like that. I don't know what it is. It's strange, isn't it? Because I feel like it feels like if he patches that hole, fights with a bit more urgency and tenacity. That
Maybe,
it's like
maybe he gets
I don't
so
know.
comfortable in there. He's had so many fights. He's such a
Yeah, he
warrior at
has a lot of
heart.
skin in the game.
He's so grizzled. He's so comfortable under this pressure that he goes in and he's seeing it out like sparring, and he knows he's so powerful that he can play it like sparring until he lands one, and then it's not like sparring, it's like a fight and he can finish. And it's happened so many times that it's hard to
Get
unwire
out of
that
that.
out of your
Yeah.
system, potentially. And that's just a complete stab in the dark. I could be completely wrong. I just can't work out what it is, because that was a very close fight. And Pedro Munoz was very happy for Cheeto
Continues to be
Vera.
underrated. Yeah.
Like, super happy for him. And I was thinking, you could be a bit aggrieved not to have won that fight, to be perfectly honest. There's a good argument for you
Oh,
having
I've
round
lost you,
one.
mate. Oh, you back? Hello?
Yeah, sweet.
I've just lost you there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was saying, there's a good argument he sort of won that fight. So, as much as I love Cheeto Vera and I love his skills, I don't think that he went out there and he put his foot down and said, right, okay, I'm going to take the dance. He still didn't do that. Still didn't do that. So, when I look at a fight between him and Sean O'Malley, I think that is one
Yeah, I
of the
think
worst
Sean beats him.
matchups for Cheeto, to be perfectly honest. Because someone like a Marab, at least with Cheeto, if he's on form, he has a really dangerous guard. He's got dangerous elbows. He'll cut you up from the bottom. He'll throw up triangles and arm bars. He's got submissions everywhere.
Yeah.
He's properly dangerous. And he's never going to let you settle. You're not going to get much offense on him. So it'll have to stay standing. And if it stays standing entirely with Marab, that's not the worst matchup. But if it stays standing for 5 rounds with Sean O'Malley, cutting angles and hitting fadeaway right hooks on
It's the length, isn't it? It's what we said. It's the same thing.
It's
It
the
runs into the same
angles.
problems as Sterling.
It's the
It's the length, it's the
traps.
angles, it's the
It's
movement.
the dead
Actually, yeah, I
spaces.
forgot about that. I did want to pick up on the footwork, the ability to
Dead
stay
spaces.
away from the fence. He did
Mm.
so well circling. Just doubling back to the O'Malley
Well,
fight
why did
quickly.
he have
But
to do that?
yeah, because Sterling was going for him.
Because he
That
had no
was.
ribs. He couldn't grapple in his camp. He hadn't
Is that
grappled
true?
for 6 weeks.
Oh, the 6 weeks. Yes, yeah, of
How
course.
crazy is
Yeah, I
that?
saw him talk about that. That's wild.
6 weeks.
I mean, I bet he's glad he didn't have to, because
it's the
yeah,
hardest matchup of his career, the biggest moment of his life, and he has not grappled for 6 weeks against the pound for pound best bantamweight grappler we've ever seen.
yeah.
And then he goes out and
There's one
stops
more.
him. That just
Yeah, sorry.
compounds that moment for me. I don't know. That's just even more
Yeah,
insane.
it is great. It's exciting to see where that reign goes for sure. But there's one more I just wanted to quickly brush through before we jump into
Singapore.
Singapore
Singers.
next week, because I love a good Singapore card, because it was 275 last time, I believe, unless I'm wrong there. That
No
was
idea.
Prajka versus Teixeira was the last Singapore
That
event,
was nice.
if
That was a
if
sweet
right,
card.
yeah. But we can quickly brush through. Just I wanted to give your thoughts about not necessarily the fight itself, but where do you think Chris Weidman goes from here? Because I feel like there's only one answer, right?
I think we know the answer, so we'll just see how that plays out. Moving on. Damon Blackshear,
Yeah.
superbly
Yeah.
impressive to take that fight on 7 days' notice after having a fight,
Yeah. I had to double check. I was like, hang on, that's not him, is it?
coming
And
off
I was
of a
like, oh
twister.
wait, it is him. Yeah.
And he wasn't competitive how some people are in last minute fights where they just put their back against the cage, they throw big shots, and they just try and win a scrappy fight. He fought a really legitimately good fight against Mario Batista, who is one of the most skillful bantamweights just in the world. You look at his skill set in regards to striking and his wrestling credentials, and the team that he trains at. We spoke about MMA Lab the other week. Their bantamweights are the best in the world. When you have a look at what the MMA Lab are doing, and especially their bantamweight divisions, and most recently we had Kyler Phillips, we got Batista, obviously we've got Sugar Sean, and you have a look at the talent they've got coming out of that gym and in Arizona with the lighter weight classes. It's kind of crazy. So
Crazy.
yeah, you got to shout out to that. But yeah, let's have a look at singers. Let's have a look at singers.
Yeah, I'm just eyeing up this card, and the more I look at it, the more excited I'm getting. I gotta
Jumping
say.
at the main one.
Oh,
I know
mate.
what you're gonna say. I feel like I know what you're gonna say.
I love it.
Don't,
I
though.
also just don't love it.
Give him a
because
chance.
I don't like the matchup, because I don't want to see Korean Zombie just take a huge amount
What
of
if he
damage, which
doesn't?
I just. The thing is, we can talk about what ifs. I know we've had egg on our face before, and I know
Speak for
like
yourself.
Dricus Duplessis, I completely wrote him off, and look what happened. But I really, I don't.
In your
see
opinion, who's more
how-
credentialed to get a win without hindsight?
What?
Dricus Duplessis against Robert Whittaker, or the Korean Zombie against Max Holloway?
Oh, it's difficult to say.
No.
Now. If you asked me that before, I don't know who I'd
No,
say.
no. Remind yourself of how you felt towards that fight.
I know.
What would you say? Genuinely, I'm
now
quite intrigued.
sitting here,
What
now
would you
I'm
say?
sitting,
I'm actually
now
kind
I'm
of
sitting here
intrigued.
saying he'd beat Adesanya. So that's crazy how things change. But
I'm actually kind of intrigued. What would you say is who has the better chance? Would you say in those matchups?
oh, Dricus, I think.
Would
I don't know if
you?
you're thinking the
I
other
don't
way,
believe that.
No,
Really?
seriously, I
Okay.
don't see a world. I don't see any realm where Chang Sung Jung wins it. I really don't, because he doesn't
Yeah.
offer anything he offers. Max will do better. I don't see that fight's just not going to the ground. There's no way that's happening.
Maybe it does.
And I hate it when you do that. But stop it.
But maybe it
It's not
does
even
though,
make me
because-
down. No. I'm not even entertaining that. I just think it's going to be a beatdown from Max. I really do. I think Chan Sung Jung, he's just a bit past it now, and I think that Volt fight has done. I think that Volt fight has just done irreversible damage to him, and I think he's still going to suffer the effects of that. His chin is still ridiculous, but Max will. I think maybe a doctor stoppage. I could see that, or just a way. Or the referee will probably wave it off at some point, standing TKO again, because he's too good. He's too just got an iron chin not to just go out on his shield. So we'll see what happens, but I don't see a realm where Max doesn't win. I don't think Max is as good as he used to be, but I think that level within this matchup is still
disagree.
Way. You think
I
so?
think he's better.
Okay. Or did you? I say Volk is just that good then. Yeah, that's fair. But
You're telling me he hasn't
I
showed
don't.
that?
Yeah, I mean, he beat Arnold Allen. That speaks for itself,
You're
doesn't it?
talking about Arnold
Yeah. What
Allen
am I talking
is
about?
sitting number 9 currently of all
He's number
time.
9.
No, of all time in the UFC for longest win streaks, surrounded by
Oh
the
right.
likes of
Yeah.
John Jones, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, Alexander Volkanovski, Demetrius Johnson, Israel Adesanya. Look at all the names we're talking about, and then it says Arnie. It says Arnie. But this is the person that we're
Yeah.
talking about Max Holloway beating. We have to remember that. We have to remember how good Arnold Allen is. And then we also have to remember how good Volkanovski is. I don't think that
Yeah.
fight said Max declined. And that's the scary thing about that fight. It said Volk improved. And the narrative around how you perceive it is truly where you're going to find the answer. Because when you look at that Arnold Allen fight, it's so impressive because I'll hold my hands up and say, I didn't anticipate him to not march forward. I didn't anticipate him to use lateral movement, chip away at the front leg,
Yeah.
time his entries nicely, let his combinations go and then move laterally. I did not expect that. He started drawing Arnold Allen onto his shots. Now we're seeing a counter-attacking Max Holloway.
Yeah. Good point. Very good point.
We're seeing a
Completely different game
counter-attacking
plan.
Max Holloway. And then what did we see against Yair Rodriguez when we cast our minds back? We saw a wrestling Max Holloway to get the win. So when you actually pay attention to the details, Max Holloway is grinding away in silence to continue to level up. And when I look at Max, I truly have the most utmost respect for him because it would be so easy for him to sit back on all the money he's made, all the title defenses, all the success, all the damages, all the war, everything he's done in such a short career. Say, you know what, I'm 30, I can go surf with my wife and do whatever I like, I can go and game. But he goes away and he makes genuine adaptations to his game, adjustments, and he comes back in better and improves. And as I said, he started chipping away at the front leg against Arnie. He started using lateral movement, drawing him onto his shots. And now we're seeing Max Holloway that wrestles against Yair Rodriguez, counterattacks against Arnold Allen, and he's actually implementing the GSP model where he's going in people's realms that aren't as good. So when you say we're not going to see Max Holloway grapple, I don't know anymore. I think we might see Max Holloway grapple. I think there's actually quite a good possibility that Max Holloway potentially wrestles Korean Zombie a little bit at certain times because he
Okay.
is dangerous on the feet. He does hit hard. And I think Max Holloway is going to be able to get him bringing his hands up with jabs and land a double leg or a single leg, take him down and trip him and potentially submit him.
Wow. Okay. You're going there. Okay.
The
Fair
thing is with
enough.
Max Holloway is, the
I don't
reason
hate
I'm saying
it.
it is because I'm just saying now we have to be at a point where we have to say, expect the unexpected and expect him to level up. And we know that he trains with some of the most legitimate jiu-jitsu practitioners and he does have good ground game and he is tricky and he is a lifelong martial artist and he has been in this game forever and he is super creative and skillful. And sky's the limit for Max Holloway. I think he's going to submit the Korean Zombie in third round.
Wow. When's the last time he's got a submission in the UFC? Has he actually got one? Am I crazy? I tell me
Yeah,
he's got
he
one in
got
the
one
UFC.
on his debut,
Must have
didn't
been
he?
ages ago, right?
Armbar? Google it. You have to. I can't be
I've
that
got
way
you.
off. I feel like I'm so off. He's
You're
definitely
gonna have
got
to bear with me.
submissions. 100% he's got submissions on his pro record. And he's fought almost all his pro
In the
fights in
UFC
the
though.
UFC. So I imagine he would have submissions. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure he's got arm bars.
Poirier armbarred
Yeah,
him.
I
Maybe
know.
are
I
you
know.
getting
There was
mixed
like
up
a
with
sort of
that?
triangle. I know. That was his first loss.
Okay.
Stoppage. And that was his last
I'm
stoppage, I believe. I don't think he's been
trying to
stopped
burn through
since.
this.
But I believe
I
he
don't
may have a submission win. Irrelevant of that. He just keeps leveling up, and that's the thing with Max Holloway. Is just that's what I was saying. He has every right in the world to just rest on his laurels
yeah.
and just sit back and
Yeah, he's
chill.
actually got a couple.
Yeah, I thought he had. He has every right to sit back and chill, but he doesn't. He comes back out and he just levels up. And to do it against these top guys is super impressive. And the fact that he comes out and says, "I've lost 4 times, 3 times against Volkanovski, sorry, but I'm coming for the 4th."
Yeah.
That's a mindset that a lot of people can't see.
Yeah.
40,
I mean
50,
3 times,
50,
let alone
45.
once is
It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's still willing to say, okay, back
I
on the
love
saddle.
Max
We're
Holloway,
coming
man. I
back.
couldn't be a bigger fan.
You can't not, can you? You can't not. I think he embodies everything that, you know, should be in someone who's stepping in the cage, if that's the
How
right
does it
sentence.
go?
You know, I mean, I think it's a beatdown. I think I like what you're entertaining with the grappling idea of grappling, but I feel like
I
it's
always
not
have
that
to
he
play
won't
the
have the
devil's
ability
advocate, don't I?
to. Yeah, you do, but I like that you're entertaining that, but I don't think it's a case of he won't be able to. I just think he won't need
Yeah,
to.
that's true.
I really
No,
don't.
I
I
think
think the
you're right.
golf on the feet is
Quite
going to be
possibly
so
right. Yeah,
high.
it's true.
He's going to really just absolutely. He'll catch him maybe flush with the right hand, and that will just stun Chang Sung Jong a bit, and it will just unload. I can see it. You know his classic sort of barrage of punches, which just comes in from every angle against the fence and just starts laying them in. And I think I could just see that with a TKO, a standing TKO. Round two, I'll go with that. Round two, standing TKO against the fence.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a massive discrepancy in the strike, and I think just Korean Zombie is too static. And as much as I'd love to say he's coming in with title ambitions and still wants to get that belt, I think he's at a point in his career where I can safely say he's not going to make any drastic changes to his game in regards to his head movement and his footwork and evading shots and damage. And I think that's going to be there for Max Holloway. And I think especially someone that doesn't load up and isn't looking for knockout shots, he's going to be able to pinpoint that lack of head movement even easier because he's not going to be telegraphing massive shots. As you'll know, he'll just be touching. And because he's not very agile when he's in boxing range with Koreans, but he's powerful. This is it. And you have to... MMA sometimes, and you have to make the Max Holloway debate. We wouldn't be a Max Holloway fight unless we had the conversation. He's got the most significant fights, the best chin. It has to break, and you have to say it every time because you'll be right eventually. Someone was right about it when they said about Tony Ferguson, and then they said, "Oh, see, I told you so." I was like, "Well, you said it every time for 10 years. You're going to be right eventually."
It will happen.
It's MMA.
I mean,
it's MMA.
Yeah,
it's MMA.
You never know.
And it's MMA. But what jumps off at you from Slingers?
I will say this one, the co-main. Ryan Spann is a guy.
Yeah, this is a weird fight.
I've always been so like torn on him because when I look at him and I look at some of his good performances,
worst person.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's incredible. Yeah. And then the next week he'll go fight again, and he'll just be absolutely like, what are you doing in there? You wonder. He's such a polarizing fighter, and I've said before about fighters who maybe just need to take those couple more steps to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and they'll have a run at the title. I used to think that about Ryan Spann. Now I don't think that's ever going to happen. I just don't know. He's just such an anomaly.
Is he?
Because I don't know how you knock out. How do you knock out Dominic Reyes like that, and then just don't carry that momentum forward? It's
with all due respect,
but
I don't want to be that person. We have to give context to Dominic Reyes' situation and the fact they had been KO'd by some of the most brutal knockout artists, and then weird. Fought Ryan Spann, who does hit hard and powerfully. But Dominic Reyes almost had his eyes closed in the pocket, So
he was throwing naked body kicks. That was wild. I was like, he's going to get absolutely slept. And then he wasn't setting them up at all.
It's not a good idea to do, really, is it?
No. But I do think Ryan Spann actually beats Anthony Smith. I think Anthony's just... I think he's always been up and down. They're sort of on similar wavelengths in that regard.
They're actually the same fighter. They don't even... and that's why they hate each other. They're the same fighter.
But I think this time it's going to be too much for Anthony. I think he's going to butt off a bit more than he can chew. He's been hanging around that spot he's been in for so long. Never really been able to make that sort of final push towards the belt or really that top echelons of the top five. I think it's good times up for him. I think Spann will knock him out. That's where I'm leaning towards.
It wasn't very long ago that Anthony Smith had his front leg torn off by Johnny Walker.
Yeah, he's had so many fights. Honestly, I forget.
Over 50 fights.
Battered by, you got battered by Teixeira,
John Jones.
John Jones, obviously. Yeah,
you have to think when you look at Anthony Smith. He's got so many skills. He's got knockout power, of course. His jiu-jitsu is obviously very good. His wrestling's not the best. It's okay. He's skillful. He's got a lot of experience. The thing I think about Anthony Smith, which he's made me aware of, less so myself, I believe his style is very much an outdated one for heavier weight classes now, in regards to he has that wide, heavy stance, foot turned in, where he can't check those kicks. And he says more than anyone, his biggest downfall is the fact that he can't check those kicks. And he's gone on the podcast so many times and said how he doesn't have the ability anymore to take leg kicks. He says that commonly on the podcast. And Bisping sometimes even says, you're not helping yourself. And I sit there sometimes and I think, and Aljamain Sterling does it to a sense, because he'll say things along the lines of, my biceps really sore, but I'm going to go train anyway. That's one thing. But Anthony Smith will say another thing and just say, I can't take leg kicks anymore.
Giving away your weaknesses.
But he says it. He says it on the podcast and says, I've taken so many over the years that I just can't take as many as I used to. I just can't. And anyone that knows that will know that's an area to target.
I think saying that and not being willing to adapt is such a glaring issue.
I think he's willing to adapt.
If you're not willing to...
I've heard him talk about it, and he says that he practices it, and he's not bad in training, and he checks them in training and different things like that. But he says he gets to the fight, and it's just... And nowadays, he says nowadays it only takes one or two, and that's it. So even if you go back and watch the Johnny Walker fight, he actually checks quite a few of them. It doesn't matter. Because when you're 230 or 40 pounds like Johnny Walker is, and that's the thing with Anthony Smith, he's not massive. Johnny Walker's this is a difficult fight for him. I think if Ryan Spann comes out and gets on the low kicks, but they are the same fighter.
They're the same fighter. He'll throw the low kicks and set up the hands. I could see it. I
think Anthony Smith's going to knock him out.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Well, Anthony Smith to knock out Ryan Spann? Oh, okay.
I think he's just...
Really?
I think he's just savvier on the feet, sorry. And I think he's going to be able to just do something.
He's savvier, he just doesn't have as much power.
I think he's going to be able to do something to clip him across the top of the head or behind the ear against the cage, sort of get him in a... Anthony Smith gets in those weird sort of collar tie positions and uppercuts and hooks and whatnot in the clinch and that sort of...
I think it's the lack of power that is the real problem for him, I think.
I don't think he's not powerful. He knocked him out before. Did he?
Yeah.
No, he knocked him down, right? And then choked him. What did he do?
I'm not gonna say because I don't know for sure. But a guy like Ryan Spann he's got fight-ending power. I think Anthony Smith kind of lacks in that regard. And I think it's a matchup between two just forever auxiliary light heavyweights, isn't it? But it is a pick'em, yeah. They're so similar, aren't
Anthony Smith, round one, TKO. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to go the same, but opposite. I like that. Remember that we're okay. I'm
Where are you at the moment now, though?
But I'm in France, mate. South of France.
So you're in...
I'm in Cannes. Well, near Cannes.
Yeah, nice. What have you been up to?
Yeah. I've just been enjoying the sun. Chilling. I've actually been kind of ill, though, so I'm with my mates, but I'm kind of just checked out last couple of days.
Food?
I got, like, flu or something. Yeah, lovely, mate.
What you had?
Lots of fish soup. Like
a bisque?
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. No, but one of my mates had that. All sorts. Lots of we'd takeaway pizza, which is a bit criminal. But
what fish have been going
for? Monies. I don't actually know because it was a fish soup. I don't know what was in it, but it was nice. So I'm not complaining.
What have you been doing with your time there?
literally nothing, honestly. Actually, I have been doing writing. I've been doing a bit of work.
Nice.
I got a couple of scripts done, which is good because we never stop. So I got 2 scripts finished, so that will be good. Good to get back on the saddle when I come back. But yeah,
do you enjoy writing in the sun a bit? I personally, for me, I love that. I
can't do it.
Really?
I can't. Honestly, I'm not built for the heat. I've got the aircon on, Sufferer. I got the aircon on blasting in here. So I'm chill, but out there I die. So
still been working, or have you just taken it?
Yeah, not crazy. Like but I'm gonna get another script done before I go.
It's just about sort of finding that balance for you, isn't it? Really, where you're still doing something that makes you feel not like a scumbag, but then also you're enjoying your time as well. And you're trying to be present in what you're actually doing.
I think I've got it for now.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I want to get maybe one or two more scripts done before I come back. So that means I'll have 5 in total in the bank, or 6, I think.
That's a lot.
I've got 3 right now. No, 4. If one's not finished, it's 3.5, and then I can get 2 more done, and I think I'll be in a good
Who
spot.
else is on the
That's
card
not
that
supposed to be.
jumps out to you?
Yeah, this is the next one. This is my I've said before, I'm having a people's main event. Okay, when I say that, I mean it's my main event. Giga Chikadze versus Alex Caceres is a absolute
Oof,
banger,
that
and
is
I don't want
fun.
to hear
Yeah,
otherwise.
that is fun.
And I
Jesus.
actually think Alex Caceres might beat him,
I think that's a
because
very
I'm not
fair
gonna lie,
call.
the improvements he's made in his last few fights have been remarkable.
That's a good
Like,
point.
he's done so well. That knockout over, was it Erosa? Is that the name?
Yes.
It was Rosa. It was, yeah. That was crazy. That
Phoenix,
kick.
again, featherweight.
Yeah,
Alex Caceres trained
and
with Sean O'Malley, I believe, loads of times.
he's
Loads of
got such
times.
a lovely flowing style. I mean, he's his nickname is Bruce Leroy.
Perfect.
Is it not? Unless I'm
No,
wrong.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
Blues.
fits him
Yeah.
perfectly, doesn't it? And he's really garnering some momentum now. And he's had so many fights in the UFC.
Yeah, he has.
And now he's finally making a nice little bit of momentum. And I would love to see him carry that. You've got guys on 2 completely opposite trajectories, because Chikadze's on, is that 2 losses in a row for him now?
Calvin
He
Cato was
lost
the
to
last
Keita.
fight.
He lost to Keita.
Wow.
No. He lost again.
To who?
Did he not? Or am I crazy? I'm pretty sure
He
he
hasn't
lost.
fought since the Calvin Cato fight.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm getting mixed up
And
with
that was a
Kuta
long
Klatse.
time ago.
I'm getting mixed up with Kuta Klatse.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, that's another Georgian.
Yeah, and he took a lot of damage in that fight. A lot of damage.
It's going to be interesting to see where he's at.
Isn't it? I love this fight.
Wow,
it's
that is a
great,
fun fight.
stylistic matchup.
Because when you have,
I'd love to see Caceres
when
win,
you
yeah.
have a look at Alex Caceres, like you said, he is fun because he can finish the fight anywhere. He has some of the trickiest jiu-jitsu at featherweight. He really does. In regards to he
He's
can
long.
just jump on your back, flying triangle you. He can come out with any attack, submission or strike, and we've seen that with that high kick that you just alluded to, and then his submission game. Even if when I was watching him in his Fury grappling or pro grappling or whatever it was, he's seriously skilled on the mats, a seriously skilled grappler. He's super fun. And you look at Giga Chikadze and you think, what does he look like? Does he come back and look like a different fighter? And he's taken all this time off and he's evolved his game.
A long time off.
A long time off. That's the sort of time off that says, okay, rest, recover. Let me reassess my game. Let me work at King's MMA with Benil Dariush on my grappling more attentively. Obviously, I know I've got my striking that I can always refine. And it's just going to be super intriguing because this is going to be a difficult fight for Giga, wherever it is. He can't think that this is going to be an easy fight if it stays standing because he's the kickboxer, because it won't look like that.
I'm worried that's what's going to happen.
It won't look like that.
I'm worried he's going to underestimate him a little bit. And I think that might be the downfall a little bit. I really can see Caceres getting the nod here.
He's so tough.
It's just that's
Giga,
what's
isn't
sticking
he,
out to me.
That's the thing as well. In
But
a
he is,
3-round
yeah,
fight,
that's
it's going to
true.
be hard to stop him. You'd have to submit him. I think you'd have to jump on his back, and I think you'd have to. How do I see this guy? I think Alex Caceres possibly is throwing some crazy
triangle or some crazy
flying triangle,
something in it, yeah.
jumping switch kick, flying knee, something to back Giga up against the cage, and then I think he just jumps at him and takes his back, and I think he backpacks him against the cage, gets on his back and chokes him out. Rear naked choke.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a triangle.
He's got slick
I like both
guard.
those options though.
His legs are just tricky.
Legs are so long.
He's fun, man. I like watching Alex Caceres.
I think I could see that round 3 maybe. I think it'd be a late one. I think for him to get that finish, I think Chikadze is going to have to have faded a little bit. He's going to have to be, worn down.
I don't know if he'll fade over 3 though, especially with this much time to prepare.
Oh yeah,
and he's gone 5 rounds with Calvin, who's pushing at pace and taking a beating at the same time.
Then it's the speed of Caceres that will make the difference. Then if he's going to get that sub,
yeah, for sure.
I think he's going to have to.
I think
rely
he
on
can
that
beat
speed
him for position. I don't think the conditioning is going to be too much of a problem. But I think if he's letting those kicks go, and maybe he's throwing those body kicks or he's throwing that high kick, and Alex Caceres gets the timing on it, and he just lands a right while he's down the pipe, and manages to drop him, and we sort of see like an Brian Ortega versus Volkanovski mounted guillotine. I don't think that's out of the question. That's a possibility. Anything else that excites? Anything else that excites you on the Singapore?
There's one more that's really sticking out to me. Aaron Blanchfield, Talia Santos. That is about as
Ooh,
clear of a
that is
title
a.
eliminator as you're going
This
to
is a
get.
fun card.
It's a good,
Wow,
yeah. The main card is really
this is
strong,
fun.
but I'm not like the prelims do tail off. Maybe that's a lack of knowledge on my part, but
Shout a name out. Shout
um,
some names out. Rattle through them.
um, tell me if
I
you.
will.
I
I'll
don't know a
stop
lot of
you
these guys. I
if
feel a bit
needed.
ashamed of myself here. This one's hard one to pronounce. Chidi
Yeah,
Nunjakwani versus Michael. Oh my god, this is awful. Michael
that's a great fight.
Olegzuchuk. You're gonna have to fill me in there.
That's a
That's on the
fantastic fight.
prelims.
Michael Olenzacek is coming
I've
down
probably watched
from.
these guys
You'll
fight,
know
but
who
there's
it
just so
is.
many
He come
names,
down
man.
from light heavyweight, and he's a very weird sort of boxer. He's Polish. He sort of sways in this sort of style. He throws nice 1-2s, good conditioning. I can't remember who he fought in his last fight, but he had a very, very tricky matchup. But this is a fun matchup between two good middleweights, two very good skills. This is going to be 3 rounds of just back and forth grindy war. I guarantee it. Come back and tell me I'm
Classic.
wrong in a week
Yeah.
if I am, but I can kind of safely say, go on, rattle off some others.
Toshiomi Kazama. That sounds familiar. Maybe I don't.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong there. Versus Garrett Armfield.
They're Dana White's almost convinced. Next.
Yeah, this is where I'm leaning towards as well. Liang Na versus JJ Aldrich fighting. She's obviously a lot of skin in the game. Yeah, I'm not too bothered about that.
I'm not.
Billy Goff.
Yeah. Oh, that's
versus Yusaku
from Dana
Kinoshita.
White's
I've
Contender
never heard of him.
Series again, and Billy
Yeah,
Goff's
I
exciting. Actually, this is his first fight. This is his debut, so this is quite a big fight for Billy Goff because there's quite a bit of buzz around him. I'm actually quite excited for this. This is why these cards excite me because there's a lot of Dana White guys that you see for the first time making debuts, and this is the thing. What I say to a lot of people, why I enjoy them, because of the Dana Whites and the Tufts, and you have to respect those shows now because of that. Sean O'Malley coming back to him just for one last time. That's why this is so big for the UFC because they have Snoop
Homegrown,
Dogg,
isn't it?
they have Californian Kid, they have Dana White, they have Sean O'Malley 10 years ago on the show, Laura Sanko, all these clips that they've thrown out, Dana White's, and they're creating this brand for this show to say, go on this, do great things, and we're going to market and brand you as this great champion.
Yeah.
And you get pummeled into the Dana White's Contender Series flow of contracts of
fighting for absolutely
10
nothing.
grand for five fights. But it's a fun show and a good model. So.
It's smart. Yeah, I mean Jamal Hill, another alumni.
Keep going with the
series.
ones on this one.
Yeah, actually, there was one on the main card. I mean, it's just a classic heavyweight scrap. You've just got Parker Porter versus Junior Taffa. That's a
good fight, actually.
It's just screaming. That is actually quite someone's getting laid out.
Yeah, someone's going out cold.
It's a strong. Oh, actually, this one I missed on the main card here. Rinya Nakamura versus Fernier Garcia. I'm not familiar with these guys. Right? Nakamura's undefeated. Bantamweight.
Bantamweight, Garcia.
Yeah,
Garcia.
on the main card.
I'm picking up the lightweight.
Oh, sorry, Taffa's not on. The main card's six fights apparently. Maybe that's wrong, but that's what it's saying here.
Yeah, we've got pretty.
Yeah, not too many.
We've got pretty fun.
It's always good in a way. It's quite a blessing when you get so many names that you don't know because it's an opportunity really. Because you could be bearing witness to a future champion. Obviously, that's a bold claim, but you know what I'm saying. You get where I'm going. With that.
Every time. I think every time, and as well because obviously I'm a saddo and I'm tapped into the industry, so I'm listening to what these people are saying in their interviews and on their debuts on Dana White's and things like that. And there's some people that I resonate with, and there's some people that I listen to the story of and that I believe in. Sean O'Malley, you said earlier about he was never on the hype train. I understand that completely, and I understand logically. In his post-fight interview, he said a really funny thing, actually, in the press conference. He said, I would have bet against myself if I wasn't me. You would. It makes complete sense. Of course I can sit here and say, I believe Sean O'Malley could do that. And of course he could. There was every chance. But if you are going to bet money, you always bet with history on your side. And the person that has 9-fight win streak and all these wins and credentials, you would always bet that person. And Sean O'Malley knows that and even said that. But there's intangibles. And he is, as Louis Fiasco says, a superstar. Very befitting walking out to that because that's exactly what he is. Yeah. Even though he did look the most nervous I've ever seen him, which he sort of alluded to. But
yeah, I mean, even
that's crazy, wasn't it?
Well, I can't remember who. I think it was DC that picked up on that.
I honestly
was it DC? One of the three picked up on that.
As soon as it was weird. It was kind of weird. I noticed it from. This is a very small tell, but again, just watching a lot of their podcasts and listening to a lot of them. But when he was walking out, and the curtain strips. he just looks up and he never does this. I know this is a weird tell, but he's super present, Sean O'Malley. He does a very good job of staying present and staying very calm. He does this thing where he looks up. He's never done this before. He looks up through the curtain and you can sort of see this look in his eyes where everything he's said, everything he's envisioned, everything he's imagined is in front of him. He's got his bright lights. He's got the superstar. He's got all these fans screaming his name. The curtain strips. The lights just pop. He's got his face and pink hair all over the boards everywhere in the arena. And he's just seeing everything he's portrayed in his mind for the last 15 years. And you could sort of see that reflected in his eyes. And he smiles, he smirks. I've never seen him do that before. And I thought, has he broken that character a little bit? Not character in he's doing something false, but in terms of, has he broke that present mentality in this position? And I was a little bit worried, I'll be honest. I was actually pretty worried for him. I thought, I know Sean performs under the lights, but I've never seen him change a little bit like that. Just that small smile.
Yeah, it's subtle, isn't it?
It's tiny.
Yeah.
So small. So small. But then when I saw him go out and he went to the check-in station with Cutman Tate and he was fully clothed. And Tate said, turn around. And he had to take his top off, his trousers off, his shoes off. He was going into the octagon fully clothed.
Yeah.
And then he gets in the octagon. What does he do? He stands in the middle from the first time. He looked super nervous and awkward. Nervous energy. He didn't feel comfortable or seem comfortable. He just sort of walked in the middle and stood there. And he was like, right, I've got to kind of stand here now. And they were stood there for ages.
Yeah, it was a little weird, wasn't it?
And
yeah, they went in really early.
it wasn't because there was some dying tension between the two. They respected each other. They were quite civil.
Yeah,
they were
of course,
friendly.
yeah.
But they both just sort of had this kind of weird, nervous energy when they just stood there and was like, don't know what to do.
It's like Bruce Buffer still reading out like the
Very
Nevada
strange.
State Athletic Commission. You're like, we got a long way to go. You're still
And they were sort of like, right, I've committed to this now. You've committed to this.
We're not leaving.
And then the commissioner came over and I was
Yeah.
like, you haven't got to worry. They're not going to do anything to each other. Like, they're both very chilled. But that was kind of funny. But yeah, that kind of wraps up a really good,
Yeah, I mean,
really
it
good
was.
week of fights, actually.
It's another week of just good MMA, and I almost forget that.
No
I
off
remember
seasons.
I think it was the first episode. Yeah, you said it was 4 straight months of every week, and I was like, "Shit, you're all right." And I almost forget that's not the norm. When does that stop?
It doesn't.
Do you know? It was 4 months though, wasn't it? So there's got to be a
it's
week
4
where
months,
it doesn't.
but then what happens? You have 1 week that isn't, and then what
One
happens?
week off, yeah.
You're back.
Straight
and
back
I
on
love
it.
it. There's no off-season. Football,
Oh, we got a
cricket,
lot. Oh,
tennis.
we got UFC Paris as well
Everything
coming up
has
as
an
well.
off-season. MMA is a
Not UFC.
constant factory.
I love
And you
it.
think about what we do.
UFC Paris as
Think
well.
about what
and
we
UFC
do.
293. Ugh.
If we were
It's
in
every
football, when it's the summer and whatnot, it does get a bit slow. Yeah, they're on.
Yeah.
You know, MMA, it's never slow. Pedal to the metal.
But that's almost a bit of a detriment to it in a way. Kind of, it can be. You know, there's burnout's always the thing, but I'm not feeling any burnout from
No
UFC
such thing as too
or
much of a
MMA
good
as of
thing.
late. So, yeah,
And
that's a
people
good
moan
point.
about,
That's a good-
these weak
that's a good line.
diluted cards. You just don't. Realistically,
You don't know. Grow up.
I know they're not. I know they are a little bit more diluted in regards to they are taking on a lot more fighters and rosters now. But of course, that's what's going to happen when you bring on so many cards. But that's not to say that all of these fighters are rubbish. It's just to say that 1 in every 4 cards, you'll probably see someone you're like, yeah, they're probably not that standard. There's maybe a
Listen,
bit of a
the
decision.
only caveat I'll give is if Holly Holm is main event in a
Well,
fight
she main
night,
events
then I
every
completely
fight.
understand.
She's got more main events than I think anyone.
I can't defend
Crazy
that.
career of
I
all
can't defend
time,
that.
Holly Holm.
She's living off that head kick, and fair play to her because you know she's done everything.
I've never seen someone
She is ridden that.
optimise a
Yeah.
moment better than her. Genuinely, I mean that as well. She's got
Yeah.
about 20 fight night main events off the spin, and that's money as well.
Jesus Christ.
We were in that conversation the other day with down at the gym when they were saying, right, do you think you can get in the main UFC, and if so, do you think you can main event? Because that's when you start getting bread.
Yeah.
And that's true. So yeah, like you said, it's been a fun week to sort of wrap up, but. I guess we'll finish on that one. So as always, thank you for tuning in,
beautiful, mate.
people. That's been Casuals and Counters every
Counters, there it is.
Monday with myself and Leo. Everything in the MMA world, everything with creating content in the MMA world, and everything in our lives as always. So look after yourself, enjoy your week, and Peace.